Loktargar friends, hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for another Orc Mode workout, and today was Dynamic Effort Bench Press Day. Just a quick reminder for those of you who watch these vlogs every day, please remember to click like down below. It would be greatly appreciated if you would help me keep the likes higher than the dislikes to help offset that script, and please, if you guys would click like on all the other videos I uploaded today, I would greatly appreciate it. But over to this, we are in week 2 of the wave. We are using the Buffalo bar. And so what we're doing with the dynamic work, I'm going to run my 3-week pendulum waves, and I may cut back to just doing 10 sets instead of doing 12, 10, 8, and just get progressively heavier with each one. The force generation's the same, even if the bar speed might be different. And just change the bars every 3-week wave. And that might be the way to go. And also I'm running my bands fairly tight at this point, trying to make sure I have some tension at the bottom always. And this went pretty well. A lot of times though with the Buffalo bar, the first 3 sets move a little slower for me because it's that wider grip and I'm always faster as I get in closer. And it's that deep stretch. It puts a little bit of deep stretch on my chest. I'm not going to lie. So it does make it a little bit harder to get that power out of the bottom. But I am getting better and better at the speed bench. But this workout went really, really good. I was really happy with all my supplemental work. I got some PRs and things. But for this today, it was 10 sets of 3 at 55% of my 1 rep max in bar weight and 25% of my 1 rep max in band tension, which is going to be constant. We're going to see the 3-week waves run 50, 55, 60%. Plus 25% band tension. And always a reminder that the band tensions are done as percentages of your max. Okay, they have nothing to do with the weight on the bar. It's not how you run accommodating resistance. It's always based on 1 rep max because that's what we care about. Maximum strength. And I've got a lot of videos coming out discussing speed work. I'm going to do a ton of videos discussing speed work and hypertrophy. A lot of them are already filmed. They're in the queue to come up to you guys. Discussing the hypertrophy components of it. The specificity of training to a 1 rep max, all of those things, because people have to remember that with speed work. This actually builds your maxes. It does have specific carryover to a 1 rep max. All right, the way we program speed work is built to improve your 1 rep max. People don't realize that, but there's a reason the reps are selected. And what people need to remember, you can argue all you want about, well, if we run it lighter and use things to measure speed, we can get a faster speed. And there's coaches who argue that, but does it carry over to the same amount of time as a max lift? In other words, if you do a triple on speed bench and you end up getting 50% more velocity because you ran an even lighter weight, does your 1 rep max take longer than the concentric of those 3 reps combined? Well, if it doesn't, you can't just do 3 reps. You have to add more. That's the problem with messing with the percentages. Right? Speed work is designed to make your concentric reps for each set, at least on the squat and the bench press, to be the same amount of tension time you have when you lift a 1 rep max. Because you're exerting maximum force for the same number of seconds or microseconds. And a triple on speed bench is about the same time it takes you to max a bench. It's one of the reasons it carries over. In addition, we have all the hypertrophy. We have all the hypertrophy component. We have the practicing first reps, practicing setup. I mean, I have to set up an arch 10 times. I have to dig in, set up, unrack 10 times. That's a lot of practice. Notice my bench is going up though now that I'm focusing on the right things, particularly doing the speed work again. My bench improves from it. My bench improves from it. And it's a hell of a workout. You know, and people can argue all they want against speed work, but when you really look at it closely, the evidence is there that it does work. It just may not always work for the reasons that people think it works. But it's a cumulative number of reasons that add together that make it so effective. Okay. There's a lot of reasons, and we could argue that it may not actually make you more explosive. But that may not be relevant to its ability to get you bigger and stronger. It works. And I did my close grip bench. These were a little challenging today because I hit the same PR for my 3x10 that I got on max day, but I had only done a 1 rep max and just went straight over to these. 10 sets of speed work is slightly more fatiguing. So I'm happy that I got these. So I got my 245 for 3 sets of 10. And we're going to see if we can keep increasing with this straight bar. And like I said, when it stalls, we'll go to a different bar. Okay, we'll go to a buffalo bar or a football bar, or I'll go to a half board, whatever I have to do to keep progressing, and then I'll progress that till it stalls. But the goal is to get to 3 sets of 10 with 275. 3 sets of 10 with 275, and that's going to be lofty, because I was at 225 for 3 sets of 10, and I've taken it up 20 pounds, and another 30, that's a lot. But you know what? We're going to get there, because we're going to use supplemental lifts to build the close grip. We're using the JM press. We're building muscle in spite of the fact that I'm in a small deficit, down 5 pounds so far. Another 10 to go. And then we'll assess where I'm at and decide what I'm going to do moving forward. Right? Another 10 pounds of fat to go though. And then we'll reassess. But I'm still gaining strength. We are going to gain strength. We are going to gain muscle. That's the beauty of dialing in your training perfectly and slow cutting. Everybody wants to do fast cuts. That's the stupidest thing you could possibly do. I get why some people do it. It's just stupid. Like, you want to lose muscle and strength. Right? We should be seeking to make gains at all times. And if that means you have to cut slower to keep making gains, then you cut slower to keep making gains instead of this, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back nonsense. We don't need that in our training. Okay, we want to always progress. But I'm happy with those. Happy with them. Then we did a small PR on the JM press. I went up 2.5 pounds. What's the short-term goal I've set? To get to 155. All right, this is 145. So this goal looks like it's coming quicker than the close grip is. But I got all of them. Got all 3 sets of 10. And if all goes well, I'll see if I can bump it next time. But if I can't, I can't. Like I said, if I try to bump the close grip, that may fatigue me more. I don't know. We'll find out. And there may come a point where I work in some overhead pressing back in, but if I do, it's going to be near the ends of the workout. Because I have been thinking about that. Do I need to make sure my shoulders get plenty of development? I feel like all the shoulder stuff I'm doing is good, but we'll think about it later. Right now, though, I don't want to mess with it because everything's progressing good without it. All my focus on overhead pressing didn't do me a lot of good. So I always have to remember, if I do it, it needs to be late in the workout as supplemental work. Just to make sure I stay good at overhead pressing, maybe just to make sure my upper chest and delts and everything get everything they need. But this stuff is all working. Focus on upper back, focus on triceps, close grip work, speed work. That's what's working for me. My benching is getting stronger. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. But we have to keep pushing forward with all of this stuff. We have to make sure that our lifts feed into our other lifts. And we have to be willing to rotate variations when things are stalling, which is what I'll have to do with the close gripping. Now the JM press, it won't be as necessary to rotate as much because it's another exercise down the row. But we have variations. We can do JM floor press. We can do reverse bands. We can do chains. We can do a lot of stuff with this movement. There's a lot of stuff we can do with this movement to create some variation as necessary. But it's going pretty good for now. I'm getting decently strong at it. I don't see how strong I can get at these. It'd be amazing if I got them past 155. Imagine doing 185 for sets of 10 on this. Triceps would be pretty strong at that point. Probably a lot bigger. And God knows I need the arm. Inverted rows. Got my feet set better this time. I'm pushing the stack further down. It's making it a lot easier to get into position. But these are much more challenging now that I'm 7 inches off the ground. And that's the beauty of the EVA foam pads. That's why you guys need these. They're so versatile for everything. We can incrementally change ranges of motion on box squats, deficit deadlifts, block pulls, even things like this with an inverted row. And every time I am able to exceed my target reps, because this is how we control tension, I can add another mat and add another mat. Right? Of course we can. Of course we can. So we can control tension by adjusting the position of our feet with this. And I could stack this indefinitely in theory, but it gets harder and harder the higher we stack and the higher my feet go. I did a 5-pound increase on these today. They were a lot more challenging to get all 3 sets of 10. But I do feel them. They're working my shoulders a lot. I've noticed when I check in the mirror, my rear delt's growing a little bit. And I've actually kind of cut the face pulls out for now. I'm just doing band pull aparts. I feel like the face pulls are not bringing that much to the table for me. They're okay. But because of my shoulder range of motion limitations, which seems to be structural, I'm still doing daily mobility work every day for all of that. It's never improved. Doesn't mean I quit doing it, because it might be a bad idea to quit the habit, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help, and I feel like when I do stuff with it, I'm hitting bone on bone. So, you know, face pulls, I'm not as worried. I'll just do band pull aparts for rear delts. So stuff like this will build my whole shoulder girdle. Why wouldn't it? It's hitting all 3 heads and the upper traps. Okay. And all of it seems to be growing, and I'm getting stronger at it. So we'll keep it flowing, and keep moving forward. And we're going to keep always rotating new movements in to keep things fresh, to keep a novel training response in, because we have to keep getting bigger. We have to keep getting stronger all the time. Okay? We cannot stagnate, and that means we do have to add novel training response. It doesn't mean we change everything out. The basics a lot of times stay the same. Our supplemental work gets rotated. You know, novel variation on max effort lifts. All right, that's why we change bars every 3 weeks, so we run 3-week waves with the speed work. Avoid overuse. And here's an example. I felt like I was stalling with the straight bar curls. So now I'm going to use the narrow grip easy bar. Now some people say, are you going all the way down? That's me touching. I can't really get lower, because I'm hitting my thighs with my hands. But why the narrow grip? Because I prescribe these to clients sometimes. They're like, why the narrow grip? I'm like, you work more brachialis. There's good data showing better brachialis recruitment with just as much bicep recruitment. Right? Well, don't we want more brachialis? Won't that help me carry over to my other lifts? That brachialis will help with my rowing. But these were sets of 12 today because I picked the weight wrong. Or I figured I could go light enough anyways that if I get sets of 12s, I can have room to grow to get down to 3 sets of 10 to failure. And I just kind of knocked out the first 2 sets. In the final set, I slowed the eccentrics down the last few reps. And a lot of times people will say stuff like, we need to do these slower eccentrics. That's why you don't have biceps. It's like, really? Because I don't do slow eccentrics for any of the muscles that I have that are massive and everyone says are jacked and overdeveloped. Okay. I've had bicep damage. One of my biceps has had a piece of it physically cut out by a doctor, a big ass chunk. That's probably a bigger factor, right? So, you know, it is what it is. We work with what we have. But in this case, you know, I can stand to have more bicep. I would like to have the tear resistance. They're a stabilizer on the bench. They'll help me with my bench pressing. So we might as well. And it's not a big deal to just do 3 sets of curls on each upper body day. As long as they're quality sets, even though the rowing is actually giving good bicep stimulation because of the amount of it I do with 12 sets a week. This is just kind of making sure my biceps get a little bit. And I feel like they're growing a little bit. I feel like my arms look a little bit bigger. It's not much, but it's something. And then I wanted to do some rolling extensions because I've been wanting to add these in. Plus I never have videos of me doing them for clients. So I always have to link DeFranco doing them. So I'm like, let me work on doing these myself. Now, unfortunately, these dumbbells are too light. 25s are the dumbbells I have. I may need to get bigger dumbbells or do more work ahead of time and just use these to burn out at the end anyways. For those curious what a tricep rolling extension, we're trying to focus on the lateral and the medial head. That's why the real work is there. Yes, there's a little bit of movement of the shoulder, but it's not enough to really significantly work the long head. It's just to make sure that we roll into that position. All right, because we're doing this to avoid getting tendonitis in the elbow. That's why you have that little bit of roll. But I ended up getting like 21. I was just going to do roughly 20 because that felt good. But 21 on the first 2. But then because of the short breaks, I could only squeeze out like somewhere between 16 and 18 on the last set. I lost count. Doesn't matter because that's all I could do. And failure is failure. And again, this is just a final light exercise. Everything else is for 10s or less that's hitting my triceps. So this little bit of extra volume on this movement won't hurt. And what's the idea here? Well, I want to make sure that this keeps my JM press moving. right? Because the same parts of the tricep that get worked here will be what's used on my J-arm press, and I don't want to reduce tension on it to get more volume, so we can do another tricep movement later in the workout. I do need to be tricep dominant. I do need a lot of tricep and hamstring focus and everything with my training. I need to address all these things, upper back. Those are my weak links. So adding meat to my triceps will help, but it needs to be meat in the right places. Long head doesn't do anything for my benching. It doesn't do anything for most people's benching. So I'm not worried about it. It can get some secondary growth from all of this, and it will. But we're worried about that lateral and medial head primarily. So I'm doing exercises that really hammer those while still being okay on our elbow tendons, which I've put a lot of work into building those tendons up. But very happy with today's workout. Very, very solid workout. PR'd on some stuff, added some new movements. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.